This is Business, Equity, and Opportunities.
Welcome to Business, Equity, and Opportunities. I'm Scott Sander. Whether you call it acumen, sense, or savvy, those terms can all refer to an understanding of business in a way that can lead you to success. Every week we bring in 7 guests who possess some of that savvy, successful entrepreneurs, business professionals, community leaders, and our own team of experts. They share their experiences, successes, and yes, failures, with suggestions to help you succeed. Each week we have 7 segments then that cover the things you need to know to grow your own acumen or savvy. We're here every Sunday morning on Wish TV. You can catch the live stream on wishtv.com. You can also see much of our content and share it with anyone on demand anytime at BE&O.show.com. Our site grows every week with new stories and resources. Try our podcast so you can listen to us at your convenience. We also encourage you to sign up for our newsletter. We update it every Tuesday. Let's get to the business of business. Here's what's coming up today on Business, Equity, and Opportunities. Now, you can gain access to capital by attending PitchFeast. Market analyst Jane King is back with the new moves from state lawmakers that could affect you. We mark Women's History Month by highlighting the work of another woman-owned business. We look at dentistry from the perspective of a small practice in a field of corporate giants, and we'll share a success story of a recently promoted brigadier general. Up first, we're getting started with a local company with a fiery focus, and it's on a hot streak.
This is Business, Equity, and Opportunities. Getting started.
Rosemily Geyer is the CEO of Geyer fire protection provider that's been named the Certified Minority and Women-Owned Business Enterprise Vendor of the Month for March.
Congratulations, continued success. This is recognizing Geyer Fire as our XBE Business of the Month for the month of March.
Today I was honored to be awarded the Vendor of the Month for March. There's definitely some opportunity that's carried with that. One, they've done a great job, like publicity-wise, right? Getting the word out, learning, sending words through Twitter, through their social media outlets. That's stuff that we definitely want to take advantage of, right? As a small business, taking advantage of some of that marketing. So that does have some opportunity that's associated with that. But just in essence, also just being recognized by them, right? Always being top of mind somewhere is definitely always an opportunity to be thought of.
I certainly think that this acknowledgement and recognition should also be interpreted as our effort to encourage other XBEs to register with OMWBD, which provides opportunity for businesses throughout the city to grow that happen to be women-owned, minority-owned, veteran-owned, or disabled-owned businesses. And it helps create a network of diversity in the Indianapolis business community.
Back in 2011, I co-founded this business with other family members after having been in public accounting for about 10 years. Having seen entrepreneurial businesses at EY for many years, I knew that at some point there would be an opportunity for me to do something, and the opportunity came up with fire protection. So that started in 2011, and the real key there was getting involved and networking, because the fact is I really didn't know much about, fire sprinklers at the time. But I was open to learning, and I've always been a studious person, always constantly wanting to learn and curious about things. And so that's really what led to developing this and then getting involved and just getting out there in the community and in the construction world. Probably some of the biggest items and takeaways that I've learned throughout this has really been persistence. Where I was at before, I carried a name of recognition with an employer, right? You walked into a room, you had that recognition. Coming into your own business, you don't carry that same brand, right? You don't carry that recognition. And so you could walk in, your competitors may be better known. And so at times that can be disappointing, but if you continue and you keep building your brand and you keep building yourself and making a path, that begins to change, right? And so I would say persistence in terms of knowing that marketing and getting out there is going to lead to some opening of doors. Many times again, there have been long established relationships with customers and they're not wanting to change, right? But persistence with that, eventually there will be some of those changes, because eventually you'll be the one in that seat where a customer doesn't want to change. So persistence to me has probably been the biggest thing, along with allowing yourself to know that you can't control everything that's going to come your way, right? That's a hard thing, especially when you're used to being in control. There will be times where contracts go south or other business deals may not go as planned, that are going to throw a wrench, and it's easy to say you're done. But the fact is, if you just stay the path, you stay the course, and understand that you will not be able to control everything, that's a huge lesson, I think, that I've learned over the past couple of years. I think doing business in Indiana is simple compared to other jurisdictions. So we actually have locations outside of Indiana. So I can easily compare what that's like compared to Indiana. One, regulation in Indiana is so much easier and simple for a business owner to understand, much more straightforward for you. Second, there's opportunities, the building, right? Just within what the city is putting out there. Projects such as like an IU Health, the hospitals that are going up. But that's not just here in the city, right? That's throughout the state. Those types of opportunities are coming up, and they're definitely putting in a lot of effort to bring in XBE companies into those opportunities, and making it work for you, right? Because it's not always reasonable or feasible to say that you're going to take on a large segment of a project, but they're working with you and teaming, and even our competitors are coming to us and saying, hey, let's find ways to team together, right? So it's also a friendly, competitive nature among some of the other fire protection companies. So there's a ton of opportunity. You just don't have all the capacity to take it all. I mean, we are turning down opportunities at this point for capacity reasons.
If you'd like more information about Geyer Fire or any of our contributors, we have links, beoshow.com. If you'd like to ask us a question, possibly appear on the show, email us at beo@wishtv.com. Later, Wall Street Perspective on Indiana issues from Jane King. First, though, if you need to access capital, we'll tell you where you can pitch your business plan. You're watching Business Equity and Opportunities.
Getting started, made possible by the Indiana Economic Development Corporation.
Welcome back to Business Equity and Opportunities. I'm Scott Sander. It is time to gain access to capital. If you know the show Shark Tank, you'll understand the concept behind a local competition that could give you access to capital.
This is Business Equity and Opportunities. Access to capital.
Kendrea Williams is the CEO and founder of PitchFeast, an event that allows Black, Indigenous, and women of color the opportunity to pitch their businesses or startup plans to a panel of investors. Top 3 pitches earn a share of $50,000 in seed money. Vanessa Gorham is the owner-operator of 360 Cleaning Services. 360 was awarded first place in last September's PitchFeast.
I am a connector, and I'm very resourceful, and so I just get great pleasure in helping a business owner, connect them to the resources that they need to get started and to move the needle on that business that they're working on. PitchFeast kind of started as a hobby between a group of individuals who were, just interested in doing some business support in the city. We kind of modeled it after an event that was happening in Detroit called Detroit Soup. And then one of our members of our group had came up with the creative name of PitchFeast. But the overall goal was just to kind of support local ideas with the local audience over dinner. So the concept of PitchFeast is to connect under-resourced entrepreneurs with the capital resources they need to get their business started. This is our 10th year. We've probably had over 100 pitchers come through our PitchFeast event. We've held over 70 events here locally in Indianapolis. Our most recent event, we had 10 finalists, and they were all women entrepreneurs who were building businesses here in Indianapolis. From a vegan baker to a home cleaning company to an attorney, we are industry agnostic, so we kind of allow any type of business owner to pitch, and so that means we have a variety of pitchers who have come through our event.
I am the founding owner of the 360 Cleaning Services, LLC. My business is a cleaning company, both for residential and commercial cleaning. We provide both interior and exterior cleaning services here in Central Indiana. We are not your average cleaning company. So you think about cleaning, you think about basic cleaning, right? But we provide interior, extreme cleaning, such as like hoarding cleanups, basic cleaning, standard cleaning services. And also our exterior services consist of hauling, gutter cleaning, pressure washing, things of that nature, yard cleanups. My experience last year at PitchFeast was just a great opportunity for my business, for a chance to highlight my business, to grow in business. And it came by way of Kendrea with PitchFeast. And just being presented with the opportunity to be able to get capital that I wouldn't necessarily have had the option to have access to those resources to had it not been for PitchFeast. And I wouldn't have been able to gain that type of exposure had it not been for PitchFeast. So I was able to develop some networking relationships in business with other entrepreneurials like-minded, such as myself, to be able to basically build a community of entrepreneurial partnerships. Winning this had really opened a lot of doors for me. The goal was ultimately to develop a tech platform where I could bring the consumers and the customer in together to create a hassle-free experience with booking the cleaning services. And so right now we're building tech to allow for that to happen. So that's going to help me to stay in front of my competition and be able to, again, provide a hassle-free experience for clients to be able to book their cleaning services, which is oftentimes my competitor does not offer that. And so in addition to that, bringing the contractors in to be able to extend jobs to them that are paid jobs and ready to work.
We have partnered up with Impact Central Indiana, and First Internet Bank has committed to be a sponsor of PitchFeast. And so this year we have 4 winners. We have a first place winner who'll get $25,000, a second place winner who'll get $15,000, a third place winner who'll get $10,000, and then an audience choice that'll get $5,000. And these are investment funds that they can take and apply directly into their business. The application is currently open and it closes on the 14th of April. On the 21st of April, we will have selected our 10 finalists who will join us in our May event. Those finalists are going to be invited to be part of a peer group where not only do they get to pitch in PitchFeast and potentially win the investment dollars, we work with them for 6 months and kind of follow them on almost like a case management basis to help support them with their new growth. PitchFeast pitchers, they typically get 5 minutes, right, to pitch their business idea to our audience. The audience typically asks questions, or maybe a judge asks questions for 2 minutes. We basically just want to know, what type of business you're building, who you're going to serve, what type of problem you're going to solve, and how we can help you move that needle on that business progress.
In business, you just have to be willing to take on new challenges and to do different things and to give yourself the exposure necessary to grow the business. And my ultimate encouraging words that I will leave with someone is just step out on faith, just as I did, and just take advantage of the opportunity. I was telling Kendrea earlier today that opportunities even such as this aren't oftentimes presented on a daily basis, and so you just have to take advantage of opportunities when they present themselves, and believe in yourself enough to know, and believe in your business enough to know that you're worth highlighting and you're worth the investment.
The deadline for entrepreneurs to apply to compete in the PitchFeast is April 14th. Competition is live May 22nd. If you'd like to know more about that, find a link on our website, beoshow.com. Coming up later, Tap Order Pay is changing business, and it's in accounting and bookkeeping. Before that, Jane King looks at what state lawmakers are doing now that could affect you and your goals. That's when Business Equity and Opportunities returns.
This is Business, Equity, and Opportunities. This Week in Business.
This week in business, new moves from state lawmakers that could affect small business, what interns are making these days, and a tax season version of Would You Rather. All from our friend Jane King at the Nasdaq. Jane, thanks for being with us. We've been watching Senate Enrolled Act 2. Said simply, our viewers could be paying less to Uncle Sam.
That's right. And so any small business owner should definitely talk to their accountant and see if this affects them. So this Senate bill, it was signed into law by Governor Holcomb, and it basically creates a substitute for the state income tax by establishing a new voluntary pass-through entity. So you may have heard of the SALT tax. This is kind of like how the SALT tax works, and it basically allows this entity tax that's not subject to the $10,000 minimum federal tax deduction. So it's retroactive to January 1st of 2022. So you can not just save money in 23, but also in 2022. So this is just part of Indiana's aim to just become friendly to business and to encourage job growth and environmental activity and economical activity.
And to underscore something you said, they're already signed into law. We're in the middle of a state house session. It's not common for it to happen that quickly, so clearly they wanted to really get this one rolling. So thanks for the explanation on it. It doesn't really matter how many movies and TV shows that we have seen over the years that say, oh, I can run a small business just by having my family and interns run things and not actually pay anybody.
Yeah.
We talked to the Labor Department. That's not okay. And if you're going to use interns, you've got a snapshot of the expectations for what they'll be paid.
Well, and you know what's interesting, Scott? I interned at Wish TV when I was a student at Purdue, so this is like coming full circle here for me. And at the time, interns just didn't get paid,
right,
at least in TV, and maybe they still don't. But it is increasingly common for interns to make some money. And so a group, 24/7 Wall Street, just took a look at states and to figure out how much interns get paid per state. So in Indiana, it was actually ranked 40th for intern pay, $14.46 an hour. About 15% of the internships in the state are unpaid, but internships are important. A lot of times they lead to jobs. The high-paid internships typically are in tech and finance, so those are kind of the high-paid jobs as well. But it's great to get experience. A lot of times they lead to jobs. You can start working on your network while you're in college, and these internships are just invaluable, and sometimes you can make a little money in the process.
And from the owner perspective, it's a great way to sort of interview without doing an interview. I mean, if you bring in some young person or an adult learner and they're a good fit, nothing stops you from saying, hey, stay here permanently.
Absolutely. You've got them there. You see how they work, how they fit into the company culture and all of that, and it gives you kind of a feeder system into new workers. And we do know, especially companies with the labor shortage, have been looking for new workers lately.
100%. All right, this is a cute one. We know it's tax season. Both business taxes due coming up on the middle of this month, and then personal taxes as well. Somebody came up with kind of a would you rather version of things people would rather do than anything than taxes.
So, you know what's funny is that I love covering the stock market. I hate taxes. Like, they're not necessarily the same. I find them so boring. I can't keep up with them. It's just a bunch of paperwork. So I'm going to say I'd rather run a marathon than do my taxes, and I've never run a marathon in my whole life.
Wow, that's not bad. That's not bad. And so
I rely so much on the accountant.
And somebody came up with a whole bunch of these things. I'd rather kick a bee's nest, and a fun game you can play at home, I guess.
Yeah, it's not fun. It's just a lot of work and paperwork and tracking things down and all that. And I'd rather just put it in somebody else's hands and just tell me what I owe.
There you go, Jane King. Hey, listen, we appreciate the perspective on
Thanks,
taxes, on the Nasdaq, which you do enjoy covering, and a reminder that some of the best careers started with internships here at Wish TV. Our friend Jane King, thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
Also happening this week in business, have you sprung forward yet? Daylight saving time started 2 o'clock this morning. Time to set your clocks ahead 1 hour. This week marks the deadline to file business tax returns for partnerships, corporations, LLCs. They're due Wednesday, March 15th. We'd like to congratulate our boss, Circle City Broadcasting CEO DeJuan McCoy, receiving the Barbara Boyd Trailblazer Award from the Indianapolis Association of Black Journalists. Boyd's a pioneering Central Indiana broadcaster and was there to present her namesake award.
That's what I like to do. I like to give back. I like to run my platforms from a purpose standpoint versus from a profit standpoint. I remember when I was growing up in Indianapolis, there were 2 black people on air that I remember to this day. It was Miss Barbara Boyd and it was Derek Thomas. I want to thank you, Barbara, for laying the groundwork for all these young people and staying at one place so long and being dedicated to a career. And I'm gonna tell you, Barbara Boyd set an example, okay? She stayed there within that company, okay? And she built a relationship with her manager. She built a relationship with that TV station. She built a relationship with that community. And look at her. She's people are getting awards for her called a Trailblazer Award, okay? So I believe that's a great example. And I'll end with this. Any message that I have to give to aspiring journalists or people that love our business, get some equity. Get some equity in a company and learn how to do your trade better than what you did when you came, okay? We have a culture at Wish TV that we are a teaching, learning, nurturing environment, okay? Nobody's got all the answers in my company, but we guarantee you, when you come to our place, you will leave smarter and we'll help you get to the next spot that you want to get to. But if you're so eager to get out and get to the next big deal, you are blocking your coaches out, okay? You don't want to learn, you got all the answers. And I'm gonna tell you, if you're black, if you're multicultural in my company and you can't survive, I'm trying to send you a message, okay? I'm the easiest guy to work for because I'm rooting for you, okay? And I know your challenges, okay? And I'm trying to teach you from an experience standpoint, okay? So when you're out there interviewing and getting jobs, just keep in mind, get some equity. Stay there 2 years, 3 years. Run through a brick wall for these folks. If they ask you to mop the floor, I'm sorry, mop the floor, okay? Because that is what gets you credibility, that gets you next staying power and better contracts when you do your contract.
There's no doubt in my mind when I was hired that I could fail. Fail was not an option. It wasn't an option for me to fail because of you. If you ain't never been in a black shoe, you don't know nothing. I guarantee you, you've never gone to a job and they turned you down because you look white. I've been turned down because I was colored. They actually told me that. That was in the 50s. So I'm telling you, don't give up. And I gotta tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I am so proud of this group of women and men. I am so proud of what I get. Now, I'm not the first. And I tell you, I'm not gonna be the last. Because you all are gonna continue to do better.
Visit BEOshow.com for more information, and if you're holding a business-related event that you'd like us to mention here on the show, send us an email, beo@wishtv.com. Coming up, a company that's leading by innovation. We're back on the other side of this break.
This Week in Business is made possible by InnoPower.
Time on Business Equity and Opportunities to talk about accounting and bookkeeping. Tap order pay is at the end of the paper menu. Our next guest weighs in.
This is Business, Equity, and Opportunities, Accounting and Bookkeeping.
In This Week in Accounting and Bookkeeping, we're looking at the dramatic changes coming to many industries, especially the restaurant industry, which is so big to many of our viewers who are business owners and prospective small business owners. They know well the difficulty in keeping and getting good employees, also managing money in a time of high inflation. You add into the mix some pandemic twists, and suddenly technology is really asserting itself as a player in areas where it never was before. Brian Duncan knows all about this. He's the president of Me and You USA, kind of a play on words on menu, and we'll get to specifics on that in just a little bit. But Brian, we welcome you and we thank you for your time. Let's talk about, you've been in the business of business for a lot of years. Have you ever seen a moment in the sun for technology like the one we're in right now?
Yeah, I think it's the perfect storm, right? Where everything's coming together. For technology, I think it's not just technology when it comes to software in the restaurant but also when it comes to food innovation, or when it comes to more efficient ovens or whatever have you. Trying to find ways to combat the big three, as we call them here, which is inflation, labor shortages, and also the challenges of finding higher labor minimum wages and pricing increases of the labor, and then makes a way that technology has the opportunity to kind of find a way to help alleviate some of those pains.
And specific to the idea of jobs, for a long time, particularly when it came to the kind of business that you guys do, and I want to dig deeper into exactly what that is in a bit, but the thought was, wow, we don't want to push people out of jobs and replace them with technology. This is a moment, though, where the technology seems to be almost necessary because there aren't enough people to cover those tasks.
100%. And I think that there's two school of thoughts here, right? People that come into the technology space and want to create technologies that push people out of jobs usually get little adoption, right? Technologies that kind of enhance or enable the restaurateur or the staff to do more with less get amazing adoption. So, platforms like ours enable the server or the bartender or the restaurant manager to still offer that high level, high touch customer service experience, but take away those menial tasks like, paying for the bill that don't really offer much customer experience, but that have to be done.
So let's talk a little bit about that then, as our viewers decide what tools may be useful to them. Me and you, listen, if in 2019 somebody had said your visit to a restaurant, and even sit-down restaurants, is going to start with a QR code or an NFC, people would have said, no, it's not. But here we are, and you guys seem to be at the forefront of that.
Yeah, so building technology that can fit either the whole dining experience. You come in, you look at the menu on the QR code, you place your order through the QR code, you check out on the QR code, or, on the other end of the spectrum, a solution that just allows you to pay at the end, right? And then everything in between. We all know that pain point of dining out with family and friends, and I've got 4 daughters myself, and when they start getting crazy, it's time to go. And when I'm waiting for that check to be drawn up, they can't come fast enough, right? Well, one of the products we offer just allows you to pay at the table, no need for the server to come back, and you can get up and walk out.
Now that said, just a good wait staff will upsell you on the cherry pie a la mode too. So there's a little push pull there, and and to that end too, what do you say to folks who are like, no, I really don't want this to be all ones and zeros. I don't want it to just be technology. When my customer comes in and wants to ask, okay, what would you eat if you were sitting down at the table eating here of the waitstaff? How does that work? How does it mesh together so that it's not strictly a technological experience?
And I'm glad you asked that, right? So the level of customer service that you give is completely up to the restaurant, right? So like I said, our solution is essentially the best server's assistant you're ever gonna see. If a server provides good customer service, provides amazing suggestions, recommendations, they still can do that, right? There's no reason why they shouldn't be doing that as well. All we're doing, again, is closing the check, helping the customer order an extra, that apple pie at the end, or you said, and for me, in my experiences, getting out with my 2-year-old starts to throw the milk across the room.
Well, listen, we appreciate the time, the insight into the sort of technological side of the changes in the restaurant world. Brian Duncan is the president of Me and You USA. Thank you.
Great, thanks very much. Appreciate it.
For more information about accounting and bookkeeping or any of our topics, visit BEOshow.com. While there, sign up for our newsletter that we update every week, and subscribe to our Business Equity and Opportunities podcast. Listen whenever you want. Up in our industry focus after this timeout, we bite into the world of dentistry. First, though, IT and how it benefits your business. More Business Equity and Opportunities after this break. Welcome back to Business Equity and Opportunities and running your business day to day. Today we look at a locally based, woman-owned business that offers IT solutions on a global scale.
This is Business, Equity, and Opportunities, running your business day to day.
Rupal Thanawala is CEO of Trident Systems.
Trident Systems started 20 years back, and we are global business strategy and digital transformation systems integrator. I know it is a mouthful, but basically we are an IT consulting firm, and we specialize in implementing solutions for our clients in the space of SAP. SAP is an enterprise resource planning tool. Basically, large corporations, think about large companies like Lilly, Allison Transmission, Corteva, Roche. Their entire organization has been supported by SAP. So starting from their finance, HR, manufacturing, quality, sales, distribution, everything is run by just one software. And we provide those services. However, we have one more specialization. Within that SAP services that we provide some of the very niche consulting services, which is called e-invoicing. Many countries outside the US, of course, government has a specific requirement that every time when they send an invoice to their customer, government has to first approve it. They send it back to the companies, and that is their official invoice. Now, probably 25 countries have these requirements, but they all have their own flavors. So we help them customize those solutions and make sure that the companies are compliant to do the business, and we solve their problems. I think in a nutshell, if you ask me, we are problem solvers. So for us, how it worked out is, of course, SAP is mostly implemented in multinational companies. That means they have their operations all over the world, and we wanted to make sure that we are able to solve their problems and implement the solutions for their regional operations. So understand where your clients' needs are. Secondly, we recruit locally also, because when you want to work in a global environment, you have to understand their local requirements, because every country have different requirements. Also have individuals who speak local language, because that's very critical. And the third and the most important thing is, how do you tie back the solution that you're implementing back to the headquartered company, which is based in US or in Indiana in that case. So talent becomes one of the critical factor in this one. And having the network that we have has really helped us to find individuals who are talented in those regions. So when we started the business, and a small women-owned business, we had a challenge of capital. And only 2.5% VC funds, only 2.5% women-owned businesses. So we had to do everything on a bootstrap. We couldn't grow as where we are right now, because we had to make sure that everything was done by friends and family's money, and we didn't have even that much support from everybody, so we had to start small. So that's the first thing. So that was the very first challenge. Secondly, again, running an IT consulting firm, and this tech is still very much male-dominated industry, so they don't think that you have credibility. So I think credibility was another challenge. I have walked into the rooms and people thought, oh, you're not the president. So I think that is still, I think things are changing, but I have been doing it for 20 plus years, and that's my journey. And initially I used to feel that way, that, oh, you do not belong here, you know. The most exciting thing about my business is, I am solving some of the most critical and pressing problems of my clients. I'm an engineer, so solving problem really excites me. And working with different corporations and listening to them and understanding that, oh my gosh, this is how I can make your life better, is really exciting for me.
If you'd like to learn more about this or any of our topics, visit beoshow.com. Up a little bit later, we hear the success story of the Brigadier General who's in charge of paying the Army from Central Indiana. Up next, though, it's our industry focus. More business equity and opportunities after we do some business with you.
Grow your business with Wish TV's featured business directory. For less than $200 a month, be one of the limited businesses in 30 different categories, benefiting from one of the top visited websites in Indiana and Indiana's only statewide news station. Space is limited. Contact us today.
Welcome again to Business Equity and Opportunities. Time for our industry focus. Modern dentistry can be a big business. Increasingly, the field features dentists as hired hands in a huge corporation franchise model. But there are still independent dentists, small business owners out there working under their own shingle.
This is Business Equity and Opportunities. Industry Focus.
Dr. Kyle Ratliff is the lone dentist practicing at Transformative Family Dentistry in Indianapolis. How does his practice compare to the giant corporate dentistry franchises?
So Transformative Family Dentistry started August 2022. Previously, it was owned by a doctor who retired, and I took over his practice. So the ability to make it my own. Kind of my business model or structure is patient convenience. So again, being able to address the patient and get them in, because we are in a consumer's market. So we do block off periods in our schedule to be able to see same-day patients, to convert same day, because we really understand, again, our economy and the importance of one-stop patient visits, able to purchase a practice. But a lot of us, what we're doing is SBA, small business loans. And so that's the route that I went to acquire my practice. I found it to navigate that, especially not having a lot of business knowledge, a little bit difficult, but that's the importance of forming or creating a team that will help you and walk you through. So of course I had to get real estate commercial brokers and also consultants to feed me knowledge to help me propel me into my future. So corporate dentistry is very big in dentistry. So they're buying or taking over private practices. So they're under the umbrella of a smaller practice, but they're actually owned by bigger corporations. And so for me, being a private practice owner, the purchasing power and things of that nature is a little bit intimidating for us because we don't have that large group. I definitely don't have anyone that is mandating or dictating what I do. When I'm able to bring a patient in and treatment plan them based off of what they actually need, and actually take my time with my patients, build that rapport with them, and then walk them through what we need to do to make their smile healthy again. During COVID, we weren't even allowed to do your standard hygiene visits. We only could do emergencies. Again, the fear of the aerosols. So really, at that time, we really didn't know how COVID-19 spread. So again, coming back to the dentist, we saw a lot of hesitancy of patients being afraid to get their dental work done, even for normal healthy cleanings. And so being able to meet patients on their level, address their fears. But again, the biggest thing is to be able to walk them through what's going on and what's happening. Again, fear and anxiety is a lot that happens in dentistry, and I found that whatever I can do as a provider, but majority of it is just listening to your patients. The field of dentistry with technology is vast and it's growing. So if you're stagnated in one area, you're not going to grow. And so that's one thing that I really take heed to, and what I find really important is to continue my continuing education courses, learning new techniques and procedures. Here in our office, we do have a lot of new technologies, again, and I found that that also helps the patient. So we have intraoral cameras, scanners, just to be able to diagnose, and that also educates the patient, because I'm a visual learner. If I can see it, well then it makes more sense to me, and that also translates to the patients as well. And we also have better outcomes and predictability with that. I just went to a dental conference in Chicago last week, and one thing that's happening is artificial intelligence. So the use of robotics to help with diagnosing, and we have, again, better outcomes, but to have a robot pinpoint cavities to you and show the percentage of that, I think that's what we're going toward in dentistry. And that's the craziness of technology. when I get up in the morning, I say a little mental prayer, and I just want to give my all. With starting a business, this is kind of like my baby or my child. It's my legacy. So what do I want to be remembered as? Definitely I want to be remembered as a pillar in my community, that I served my community and I served them well. And that's what gives me joy.
If you want more information about transformative family dentistry, visit beoshow.com. When we return, time for this week's success story. That's in 95 seconds on Business Equity and Opportunities. Welcome back to Business Equity and Opportunities, and one of our favorite segments. On last week's show, we met the commanding officer of the Army's Financial Management Command to talk about the overall operation. Today, we have her own success story.
This is Business Equity and Opportunities Success Story. Newly promoted Brigadier General Paige Jennings is commanding officer for the Army's Financial Management Command, headquartered in Indianapolis.
My husband and I, have been married almost 30 years, born and raised in Montana. And because of that, I never had anybody affiliated with the military. I was not associated with it, had nobody in my family. But we had a couple family friends that had moved to Montana. One was a retired lieutenant colonel, actually bought my family's house. And I grew up around him and his kids. And then there was another gentleman. I talked about the Reserve Officer Training Corps. So the University of Montana, each location has what they call a professor of military science. And they moved there, and he was running the ROTC program. And he really sat me down and talked to me, and that was really how I got interested in it. And then when I was in high school, started pursuing a congressional nomination to West Point, was right there, got the nomination, but ultimately decided to do ROTC instead. So whether you go West Point or ROTC or any of the other ones I mentioned, you have to identify and kind of do a rank order of the branches that you might like. And a lot of that will depend upon what your undergraduate degree is, what your skills are. And so for me, I'll be honest, I really wanted to be a pilot and fly. But I had, my eyesight wasn't very good. And so there was no way I could qualify and I could pass. So ultimately, I was an accounting major, and so I wanted to go then, my number one choice was to go into the finance corps, and that's what I did. I would say it's been a wonderful series of events. One that, but it's not just me, right? It's about me and my husband and our two children. We have lived some wonderful places. My kids have got to experience some very wonderful things, and things that most people in places we have lived are family vacations, right? I was stationed at Fort Eustis, and my kids grew up around Jamestown and Yorktown and Williamsburg and saw history. My kids were in DC and got to see a lot of the things where most families, you have to take a family vacation for that. But we've had a wonderful experience, and one in which not only has my career been successful, but my husband's career has been very successful. And I would say even probably more successful than mine. And we've just been very blessed and very lucky. Somebody always wants somebody to talk to. And early on in my career, I didn't have many females that I worked for to talk to. And I've been very cognizant of that. And there's been a lot of organizations I've been in where I've been the only female officer. And so you really want to make sure that you're available to them. You don't want to force it on them, but you just want to be there, and ask. I've had a lot more younger women have come up to me probably in the last 5 to 10 years as I've gotten through the ranks. And it's really about, how do I balance? Can I be successful and still be a mom? Can I be a wife? I have a very different dynamic. My husband's never been in the military, and you find a lot of dual military, and that's really what you get. And they want to know, because I have 2 children, can it work? And that's what you get a lot of, and it's a lot of younger officers. So I think my husband and I, we have what we say our 5 to 7 or 8 year plan, right? We will retire in Montana. We've already started making some plans for that. At this point, it's just to continue the ride that we started. So I'm completing my 28th year 4 years through ROTC before that, and my husband and I were married when I was in ROTC. So he's really been on the journey the whole way with me, getting our kids through school. Our son is a sophomore and at Arizona State. Our daughter is going to start medical school in the fall, getting them on a successful path, and then us kind of completing our career and then just enjoying and going and be back where our family is. I think there's a wonderful opportunity for dialogue. Our command is one of the only active units here in Indiana, and I think a lot of people don't understand and don't have the relationship with the military per se, unless you've come from a military family. And I think there's a lot that we can learn, and I think the more that people learn, people will realize it is a wonderful profession, and it is what makes our nation great. And I think that's really what we have to get out, so that people understand you can come in here, you can serve for 2, 4, 5 years. You don't have to make it a 20 or a 30-year career, but some of the leadership and the things that you learn can just give you a foundation that can help you go out. And I think we have to do that. We have to get out and really share what this profession brings. Our branch is finance, very heavily women. Our command is greater than 60% women. But there's certain specialties that you're starting to see in, and I think it's very unique. When I first came in, there were no women in special operations. Now, I served a long time in supporting special operations. That's where I was kind of using that, where I was one of the only females. For me, it is so cool to see, because for me to get assigned to those, even though I was doing money and doing that, now you actually have women that are operating and being there. That, is very, very cool. For the men to embrace that, right, and to be supportive. And what I always told people is, don't look at it from the perspective of you sitting here. What would you want your wife or your daughter or your sister to have the availability to do? And that's how you need to lead. And that's one of the things you always have to get people to look at. You can say something here, but if you're not thinking that full circle, then you're not doing what you need to do as a leader.
That is Business Equity and Opportunities for this week. As always, our sincere thanks to the contributors who've shared their stories with all of us. We hope you found some inspiration to start you down the road to entrepreneurship, or strengthen it if you're already on it. If you need more information about anything you saw today, you can find it on our website. It is beoshow.com. You'll also find the past segments from each of our 7 weekly topics. Please listen and subscribe to our Business Equity and Opportunities podcast on the All Indiana Podcast Network. Sign up for our newsletter, updated every Tuesday. And if you have questions or you have your own success story to share, send us an email at beo@wishtv.com. We're here every Sunday morning on Wish TV and streaming live on wishtv.com. We'll be back next week with more Business Equity and Opportunities. Till then, I'm Scott Sander. Have a great Sunday.
Business, Equity, and Opportunities is made possible by Indiana Economic Development Corporation and InnoPower.